At night, a call came in from an unknown number. "Sir, your wife is at our service station right now. She is cold, exhausted, and she has bruises." I felt my heart stop. Emily was supposed to be safe with my daughter and son-in-law, but where were they? They had left her alone in the desert and fled. I drove 300 miles to pick her up, and now they would pay dearly, because justice does not forgive the betrayal of loved ones. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel William's Revenge Stories and write in the comments what time it is where you are now. The vibration of the phone pulled me out of sleep at 2:37 inches the morning. I fumbled on the nightstand, knocking over my reading glasses, squinting at the harsh glare of the screen. Unknown number, a local area code. "Hello?" My voice came out raspy, disoriented. "Sir? Mr. Rivers? I got your number from the lady who was here. Your wife? She says her name is Emily Rivers. And that you are her husband?" The voice was young, nervous, male. I sat up too fast, blood pounding in my ears. "Yes, I am Michael Rivers. Emily is my wife." What is happening? Is this some kind of joke? No, sir, it is not a joke. She is here at the desert rest stop, on the outskirts. She has been here since yesterday morning, alone. She does not want to tell me much, but she is scared and she is cold. And finally, she gave me your number. The words hit me like fists. Emily should be at the Desert National Park with our daughter Sarah and our son-in-law Daniel, safe 300 miles from that rest stop, and they had been gone for 3 days. Where is my daughter? Where is Daniel? They were traveling together. The pause stretched too long. "Sir, there is no one here but her. She has been alone the whole time." I was already moving, throwing off the blanket, my feet hitting the cold floor. 41 years of marriage, and I knew Emily's rhythms like the beating of my own heart. She would not be alone at a service station, not voluntarily. "I am on my way. Give me the address." I dressed in yesterday's clothes, still on the chair, hands shaking as I checked my wallet. License, credit cards, cash, everything automatic, while my mind raced ahead to the possibilities, each one worse than the last. In the kitchen, I grabbed water and protein bars without thinking, old prosecutor habits kicking in. Be prepared. Stay functional. The note I started to write went to get Emily. I crumpled it up and threw it in the trash. No one else lived here, no one to tell. I tried calling Sarah's number as I backed out of the garage, straight to voicemail. I did not leave a message. I tried again, 20 miles down the highway. Same result. I clenched my jaw so hard my teeth ached. The desert highway stretched black and endless under my headlights. I increased my speed to 90, then 100. There were no other cars, just me in the dark and the terrible math unfolding in my head. 3 days since the family dinner where Daniel had pulled out that folder. "I just want to show you this travel insurance information. Make sure everyone is protected." The way he had kept refilling Emily's wine glass. How Sarah had insisted, "Mom needs to come right now, while we have time off work." Details I had dismissed then were assembling now like evidence in a trial. The pattern emerged. Deliberate, calculated. The desert rest stop appeared suddenly, its harsh fluorescent lights piercing the darkness. I pulled into the parking lot too fast, tires screeching, and there she was. Emily was sitting on a metal bench outside the gas station store, wrapped in an employee blanket. Her hair hung in tangled strands around her face. Her clothes, the nice travel outfit she had worn with such pride, were wrinkled and dirty, but it was the bruises that cut off my breath. Dark marks on her upper arms, a purple shadow blooming on her left cheek. Grip marks. Someone had held her down with force. She looked up as I approached, and the expression on her face shattered something in my chest. It was not relief, it was shame. I knelt in front of her slowly, taking it all in with trained eyes. Every bruise, every tremor, the way she folded in on herself, making herself smaller. "My love, I am here now." I waited. Her voice came out broken, barely audible. "I thought they would come back. I thought maybe they had forgotten." A young boy hovered nearby, watching anxiously. The clerk who had called. Dark hair, maybe 19 years old. He shifted his weight from one foot to the other, clearly wanting to help but not knowing how. "Do not talk now," I told Emily. "Let's go somewhere warm and safe. We will figure this out." She finally looked me in the eyes, and the pain there cut deeper than any physical wound. "Michael, they left me. Our daughter left me on purpose." I helped her up, taking her weight as she leaned on me. She felt smaller than I remembered, diminished. I grabbed her small overnight bag from beside the bench, the only possession she had, and guided her toward my car. The young clerk stepped forward, apologetic and relieved. "Mr. Rivers, I am David. I was the one who called. I am sorry it took so long." But she did not want me to call anyone at first. She kept saying they would come back. "How long has she been here?" "Exactly. Since yesterday morning, around 10. It has been almost 36 hours, sir." I gave her water, some snacks from the store. My manager said she could stay in the break room during my shifts. She just kept staring at the road. 36 hours. A day and a half in the desert, cold, bruised, and abandoned, waiting for family who was not coming back. Did anyone else stop? Did she call anyone besides me? She tried calling 2 numbers over and over again. No one answered. She finally broke down crying around midnight and gave me your number. I pulled cash from my wallet and pressed it into David's hand. "You probably saved her life. Desert nights get freezing. Thank you for calling me." He tried to refuse, but I closed his fingers around the bills. "Take it. You did the right thing when my own family did not." I settled Emily into the passenger seat and walked to the driver's side. The prosecutor in me was already working, organizing facts into patterns, identifying what I needed to know and what I needed to do. 40 years in the D.A.S. office taught me to spot a conspiracy. This was not an impulse or an accident. Someone had planned this. Someone had hurt my wife deliberately. And someone was going to pay. The Desert Rose Motel was 10 minutes down the road. A low building with faded pink paint and a blinking vacancy sign. I pulled up in front of the office while Emily waited in the car, still wrapped in that gas station blanket. The night clerk barely looked up as I paid cash for a room. He slid a key across the counter with the mechanical efficiency of someone who had stopped noticing guests years ago. "Room 12, ground floor, the last unit." I helped Emily inside, flipping on lights that revealed generic desert landscape paintings and a threadbare bedspread. But it was clean. It was warm. It was safe. A hot shower, fresh towels, and then sleep if you can. She stood in the middle of the room, swaying slightly, looking lost. Then her face crumbled. "I am sorry. I am so sorry you had to drive all this way. I should have known. I should have seen it coming." I stopped her before the apology could go further. "Stop. None of this is your fault. Not a single bit. We will talk when you are ready, not before." The shower ran for 20 minutes. I heard her crying through the door, but I did not go in. Some things you have to get out alone. While she was in there, I stepped out and called the motel front desk, asking for food delivery. The clerk gave me the number of a diner that did breakfast deliveries by the time Emily came out in the thin motel robe, hair damp and combed back. Scrambled eggs and toast had arrived. I set everything on the small table by the window and poured her coffee from the styrofoam cup. "Where are we?" Her voice was steadier now, but still brittle. "At a motel in town. You need to rest before we drive home. I do not want to be a burden. You are my wife. You are never a burden. Just rest now." She picked at the eggs, managing a few bites. I watched her hands shake around the fork. The bruises on her arms looked darker under the lamplight. Someone had grabbed her hard enough to leave perfect finger marks. After she ate what she could, she curled up on the bed. I thought she might sleep, but instead she stared at the ceiling, blinking too fast. It was the second day. The words came out quiet, almost reluctant. We drove to the park, took some photos. Daniel was charming, telling stories, making me laugh. I thought maybe I had been wrong about him. Maybe he really cared. I pulled a chair close to the bed, but did not interrupt. Let her tell it her way. That is how you get the truth. "What changed?" "Breakfast." He pulled out some papers. He said they were standard travel things. Emergency contacts. Insurance. But I looked closer. It was not travel insurance. It was a power of attorney. Healthcare directives. Asset management agreements. My blood ran cold. I kept my voice level. What exactly did the papers say? The language. It said, "In case of mental or physical incapacity, and transfer of property management. And there were references to our house, our accounts, everything. I said I was not going to sign anything without you reviewing it. Daniel's face. It just shut down, like a mask falling off. Sarah said, "Mom, do not you trust us? We are just trying to help," but it did not feel like help. My hands tightened on the arms of the chair. Coercion, fraud, elder abuse. The charges lined up in my head automatically. And then Emily's voice cracked. 2 hours later, we stopped at that service station. They said they needed to use the restroom and get snacks for the road. I went to the bathroom. When I came out, their car was gone. I stood there thinking I must be confused. Maybe they had driven around back, but their car was just gone, and my phone showed missed calls from both of them from an hour earlier, calls I never received. They had called when I was in the car with them. To create a record, the sophistication of it stunned me for a moment, creating false evidence of attempted contact, making it look like she had been negligent, confused, lost, establishing a narrative of mental decline. How long did you wait? Hours. I called them over and over. Nothing. That boy, David, finally came out around lunchtime. He asked if I was okay. I told him my family was coming back. I believed it. I waited all day, all night, all the next day. I kept thinking there was a mistake, an explanation, but there was not. Was there? I stood up, the prosecutor taking over completely now. My voice came out like ice. No, there was not. This was deliberate. They tried to coerce you. When you refused, they retaliated. We are going home. Should we call Sarah? Should not. No, we do not call them. We do not warn them. We go home, and I handle this my way. While Emily dressed in the bathroom, I pulled out the small notebook I always carried. Another prosecutor habit. Document everything. I wrote down dates, times, every detail she had told me about the papers Daniel had shown her, the timeline of the abandonment, the fake phone calls, evidence. Later, as I packed our few things and checked the room, I pulled out my phone one more time. Sarah's name was there, in my contacts. My thumb hovered over it. Then I put the phone away. Not yet. First, get Emily home. Then, gather more proof. Then, and only then, make contact. But when I did, it would be on my terms. I slid into the driver's seat and started the engine. The morning sun was rising over the desert, burning off the night shadows. The 4-hour drive home stretched ahead, and with every mile, I was building a case. We arrived at our house just before noon. The house looked exactly as I had left it hours before, but everything felt different now. I helped Emily inside, her movements slow and careful, like someone recovering from surgery. "Rest," I said, guiding her toward our bedroom. "I am going to call Dr. Santos." Dr. Helen Santos had been our family doctor for 15 years. She arrived in less than an hour, medical bag in hand, her expression worried. I took her to the bedroom where Emily was sitting on the edge of the mattress, still in the motel clothes. "I need you to document everything," I said quietly as Helen set down her bag. Every injury, every mark, a full medical report. Helen's eyes met mine. 20 years of treating patients had taught her to read between the lines. I understand. She was gentle with Emily, asking permission before every exam. But her documentation was clinical, precise. She measured every bruise with a medical ruler. Noting dimensions and color, she photographed them with a professional camera, studied the pattern of grip marks on Emily's upper arms. "Can you tell me how this happened?" Helen asked, her pen ready on her pad. Emily's voice came out barely audible. "Someone grabbed me. Hard. During an argument." "Who grabbed you?" The pause stretched. "Then, my daughter's husband." I watched from the doorway as Helen wrote it down. Every word, every detail. When she finished, she looked at me again, and I saw recognition there. She had documented domestic violence cases before. She knew what I was building. "The report will be comprehensive," she said. After Helen left, I went to my office and closed the door. For 40 years, this room had been my sanctuary. Floor-to-ceiling bookshelves, my old prosecutor's desk, framed recognitions on the walls. Now it became a war room. I cleared the entire desk surface, Then I began placing documents in careful order, bank statements on the left, the credit card records I had printed before leaving to find Emily. In the center, I placed the photos I had taken of the fraudulent power of attorney papers while Emily showered at the motel. She had kept them in her purse, unable to throw them away. I studied those papers now with a prosecutor's eye. The language was sophisticated, professional terminology, proper formatting, but the substance was pure predation. Clauses about mental or physical incapacity without medical basis, broad powers over financial accounts, asset transfer provisions buried in dense paragraphs. Whoever drafted this knew exactly what they were doing, creating something that looked legitimate enough to fool an older person, but that would be immediately flagged as fraudulent by any lawyer. They had counted on Emily not having time to get a legal review. Counting on her trust, I photographed every page. I made copies. I highlighted the most problematic sections in yellow. Then I logged into our bank accounts. The pattern emerged within minutes. Small transfers to Daniel and Sarah's joint account. Always just under $2,000. One every few weeks. 6 months of systematic theft. I created a spreadsheet. Date, amount, description, highlighted in red for unauthorized transactions. The total made my hands shake. $15,000? That night, my phone rang. Sarah's number. I activated the recording app before answering. Our state law, which allows recording a conversation if one party consents, meant I could legally record any conversation I participated in. Then I put the phone on speaker. Dad. Oh. Thank God you answered. Her voice was artificially high. Theatrical. I said nothing. I just listened. Something terrible happened. Mom disappeared from our hotel. We have been searching everywhere. We called the police. Stop. The word came out like a knife. Silence on the other end. What? Dad? I am trying to tell you. Your mother is home. With me. I drove 300 miles in the middle of the night to pick her up from a service station on the outskirts, where you left her. 36 hours earlier, the silence stretched so long I thought she had hung up. Then, a different voice came on the line. Daniel. Smooth. Practiced. Michael. There has been a huge misunderstanding. We thought Emily was in the hotel bathroom, and when we could not find her, we assumed she had gone for a walk. We searched everywhere. We were frantic. You are lying. We both know it. We will discuss this face to face. Soon. Be ready. I hung up. Immediately, I transferred the audio file to my computer. I tagged it with date and time. I saved 3 backups. Over the next 2 days, I worked methodically. I photographed Emily's bruises from multiple angles with a ruler for scale. I compiled financial records. I built a timeline of every interaction with Daniel and Sarah over the last 6 months. Small things I had dismissed at the time now formed a pattern. The unusual questions about our assets, Daniel's interest in our estate planning, Sarah's sudden attention after years of minimal contact. On the 3rd day, I called Mark Stone. We had worked together 20 years ago when we were both in the DAS office. Mark had specialized in elder abuse cases before going into private practice. I laid out the facts for him without emotion. Abandonment, attempted fraud, unauthorized financial transfers. Have you been documenting? Mark asked. Everything. Medical reports, photographs, financial records, recorded phone calls. Come to my office tomorrow. Bring it all. I did not tell Emily about the appointment. She was resting, recovering. She did not need to know yet how far I was prepared to take this. That night, Daniel called again. His voice was harder now. The smooth charm abandoned. We need to talk about this situation rationally. Clearly, there are some misunderstandings that need to be cleared up. There is no misunderstanding. You tried to coerce my wife into signing fraudulent documents. When she refused, you abandoned her in the desert. Those are facts. That is your interpretation. Our interpretation is very different. Then you can explain your interpretation to the police or to me in person. With Sarah present. A pause. Calculation in his voice when he spoke again. Fine. When and where? I will let you know. Soon. I hung up and looked at the evidence spread across my desk. The story told itself in documents and photographs and recorded conversations. Watertight. Irrefutable. Now I just needed to decide how to use it. Mark Stone's office occupied the third floor of a renovated building downtown. I arrived at 9 the next morning with 2 accordion folders full of documentation. He had aged since I last saw him, more gray in his hair, deeper lines around his eyes, but his handshake was firm and his focus sharp. We spent 3 hours going over everything. He took notes, he asked questions. Occasionally he nodded with grim recognition. "This is solid," he said finally. "Elder abuse under our state revised statute, 200 to 99. Attempted fraud. Financial exploitation. The medical documentation alone would convince most prosecutors. What are my options? Criminal charges, civil lawsuit, restraining order." Or he paused. "You could offer them a choice: restitution and permanent separation or prosecution. Sometimes the threat is more powerful than the action." I thought about that as I drove home. By the time I pulled into my garage, I had made a decision. That night I called Sarah. "I want to see you and Daniel here at the house next Saturday at 2. Dad, I do not think that is a good idea. Bring Rachel and Thomas. They should see their grandparents." The mention of the kids changed her tone immediately. Hope crept into her voice. "Really? You want to see the kids? Saturday, 2 o'clock. Do not be late." Saturday came. It was Valentine's Day. Ironically, I had chosen the date deliberately. A day associated with love and family, now repurposed as a reckoning. Emily was nervous all morning, straightening cushions that did not need straightening, checking the kitchen repeatedly. I had told her what I planned to do, and she had simply nodded, trusting my judgment. Exactly at 2 o'clock, Daniel's car pulled up. I watched from the window as they got out. Sarah carried a box from the bakery, probably cookies for the kids. Daniel helped Rachel and Thomas out of the back seat. Both children ran toward the house with the unconscious joy of 9 and 6 years old. I opened the door and knelt to hug them both. Whatever happened with their parents, these children were innocent. "Grandpa." Rachel threw her arms around my neck. "We brought Valentine's cookies." "That is wonderful, sweetheart. Grandma is in the kitchen. Why do not you go show her?" The kids ran inside. Sarah and Daniel followed more slowly, tension visible in their shoulders. Dad started Sarah, but I held up a hand. "Let the children get settled first. We will talk after." For 30 minutes, I played the role of grandfather. I admired the Valentine's cookies the kids had decorated. I let Thomas show me his new toy truck. I watched Emily smile genuinely for the first time in days as Rachel chattered about her school play. Then I stood up. "Rachel, Thomas, why do not you go watch that show you like in the guest room? The one with the talking animals. Go on." And I closed the living room door behind them. The temperature in the room dropped immediately. "Sit down," I told Daniel and Sarah. They sat on the sofa. Emily took the chair next to me. I remained standing. "Look at these documents carefully." I placed the medical report on the coffee table between us, then the photographs of Emily's bruises, the bank statements showing the unauthorized transfers, the recorded phone transcripts. Daniel picked up the medical report, trying to look brave. "What is this supposed to prove? Medical documentation of assault? Witness testimony of abandonment? Proof of financial fraud? Choose the term you prefer." Sarah's voice cracked. "Dad, please. We can explain." "Then explain. Explain the bruises on your mother's arms. Explain leaving her at a service station for 36 hours. Explain $15,000 in unauthorized transfers." Silence. Daniel's jaw was clenched, a vein visible at his temple. Sarah looked at her mother, then looked away. "You have 2 options," I continued. "First option, I take these documents to the district attorney's office. They file charges for elder abuse, attempted fraud, and financial exploitation. You will face criminal prosecution." Daniel stood up abruptly, aggressive. "You are bluffing. You cannot prove intent. Any lawyer would tear this apart. This is harassment, intimidation." I did not move. I was a prosecutor for 40 years. I know exactly what I can prove. Second option, you return every dollar you took. You apologize to Emily. You never contact us asking for money again. "Dad, we just needed help to get stable." Sarah's tears were running now. "We are family. Families help each other. Families do not abandon each other in the desert. You have 48 hours to decide." Daniel moved toward the door, his face red with anger. You will regret this. Going against your own daughter? What kind of father does that? The kind who protects his wife. The kind who believes in consequences. Sarah made one last attempt, her voice breaking. Daddy, please, do not do this. Think about Rachel and Thomas. Think about our family. I am thinking about them. I am thinking they deserve better than parents who abuse elderly relatives for money. 48 hours. Sarah. The door slammed shut. Through the window, I saw Daniel's car peel out, tires screeching on the pavement. Rachel's Valentine's cookies lay abandoned on the kitchen counter. Beside me, Emily cried silently. Not for herself, but for what we had lost. I put my arm around her shoulders and held her while we stood by the window, watching the empty street. The 48-hour countdown had begun. 48 hours. 2 whole days of silence. No calls, no texts, no apologetic knock at the door. Just waiting, staring at my phone as if it might spontaneously combust. Emily checked hers compulsively too, hoping every time Sarah's name might appear on the screen. It did not. When the deadline expired exactly at 2 in the afternoon on Monday, I lifted my phone to call Mark. The doorbell rang before I could dial. A young woman stood on my porch holding an envelope. A process server. I knew the type. Efficient. Neutral. Had done this 1,000 times. Michael Rivers? Yes. She handed me the envelope and walked away. I closed the door and stood in my own hallway, looking at the return address. A law firm from the neighboring city. Not Mark's firm. Theirs. I opened it. The first page made my vision narrow. Petition for guardianship. Sarah Rivers Valdez. Petitioner. Requesting legal guardianship over Michael Rivers and Emily Rivers, based on advanced age, diminished mental capacity, and inability to handle personal affairs. Emily appeared from the kitchen. She took one look at my face and went pale. What is it? I handed her the papers without speaking. I watched her read. I saw the exact moment she understood what our daughter had done. Her voice came out trembling. She is saying we are incompetent, that we cannot handle our own lives. She is trying to seize control of everything we own before I can take legal action against her. Does our own daughter think we are senile? Or is she lying about thinking it? I clenched my jaw so hard my teeth ached. She is not thinking anything. Daniel is thinking for her. This is his strategy. Turn us into the problem. Claim he is protecting us. What do? We fight. And we win. 30 minutes later, I was in Mark's office. He read the guardianship petition, his expression darkening with every page. This is aggressive. Whoever advised this strategy, it is brilliant. Or reckless. I am betting on reckless. What are our options? We prove competence. Medical evaluations. Cognitive tests. Everything. We file for a protective order based on the abandonment incident, and we investigate them. Finances. Employment. Housing situation. I thought about Rachel and Thomas. 9 and 6 years old, caught in the middle of a war they did not understand. The grandkids, if this goes wrong, could get caught in the crossfire. Mark chose his words carefully. There are systems designed to protect children, anonymous reporting systems. If there are legitimate concerns about their home environment, the implication hung between us. I see. I am not suggesting anything specific, just pointing out that child welfare is always a priority. Over the next week, Emily and I underwent exhaustive medical evaluations, cognitive function tests, memorizing word lists, solving puzzles, recalling recent events, physical exams, psychiatric assessments. The doctor who performed my cognitive evaluation smiled slightly when I recited the date, the president's name, and the list of words she had asked me to remember 20 minutes earlier. Your cognitive function is excellent, Mr. Rivers. Better than many people half your age. For the record, there is absolutely no evidence of diminished capacity. Will you put that in writing? I am writing the report right now. That same week, I made a call I never thought I would make. From a supermarket parking lot 20 miles from home, using a prepaid phone bought with cash, I dialed Child Protective Services. I spoke calmly about concerns for my grandchildren. A father with apparent financial troubles and anger management issues. A mother under severe stress, recent family conflicts exposing children to adult problems. I provided their address. I refused to give my name. The operator said they would investigate. I snapped the phone in half and dropped it in a public trash can 3 blocks away. Through old contacts at the DAS office, people who still owed me favors. I learned something interesting about Daniel. His name had popped up in a case file 2 years ago, connected to an investigation of illegal online gambling operations. The case was closed, but the connection was logged. Gambling debts. That explained the desperation for our money. I hired a forensic accountant, not a private investigator. Those felt too invasive. But following the money, that is what I had done for 40 years. I gave the auditor everything. Daniel's name, social security number from old family tax documents, employment info. Find everything I told him. The court hearing came on the last day of February. Judge Patricia Salas. I had worked cases in her courtroom during my final years as a prosecutor. She was fair, smart, and tolerated no nonsense. Sarah's lawyer presented their petition. Elderly parents showing signs of confusion, troubling behavior, erratic financial decisions. Mark methodically destroyed every claim. Exhaustive medical evaluations. Perfect cognitive function. Financial records showing not our confusion, but the theft from them. David's testimony about the abandonment. Dr. Helen Santos's medical report documenting the assault. Judge Salas's decision was swift. Guardianship petition denied. Furthermore, I am granting the Rivers motion for a protective order. Miss Rivers Valdez and Mr. Valdez must maintain a distance of 100 yards from Mr. and Mrs. Rivers at all times. First victory. As we left the courtroom, I locked eyes with Daniel across the aisle. The hatred there was pure, undiluted. He leaned close to Sarah, whispered something sharp. She nodded, her face hard. This was not over. Outside, Mark put a hand on my shoulder. You won. They cannot touch you legally now. He will try something else, probably, but you are protected. I thought about the forensic accountant's report. Due any day now. About the anonymous call I had made. About all the pressure building around Daniel and Sarah, like a vice, slowly tightening. We will see, I said. The financial auditor's report arrived via encrypted email 3 days after the court hearing. I printed it in my office with the door locked. 40 pages of pure devastation. Online casino accounts showing losses exceeding $90,000 in 2 years. High-interest loans from predatory lenders. Credit cards maxed out and in default. And worst of all, a second mortgage on Daniel and Sarah's house. Signed only by Daniel, either forged or obtained without Sarah's knowledge. I leaned back, absorbing the implications. Daniel had not just been stealing from us, he had been financially destroying his own family for years. I photographed key pages, saved multiple digital copies, locked the printed report in my safe. Then I called Mark. I need to know the legal limits of sharing financial information with a family member. Whose information? Daniel's. With Sarah? A pause. That is tricky territory. If the information was obtained legally and you are sharing it with someone who has a legitimate interest, like a wife whose finances are being destroyed, that would be a legitimate interest. But, Michael, tread carefully. There are ethical boundaries. I do not plan to blackmail anyone. I plan to give someone information she has a right to know. Then I cannot advise you against it. But document how you obtained everything, and make sure they are facts, not opinions. I spent the next week observing Sarah's patterns. Not surveillance, just awareness. I learned she did grocery shopping every Tuesday morning at the supermarket on Main Street, alone. Daniel worked construction and was always at the site by 7. The following Tuesday, I was at that supermarket at 9:30. I saw her in the produce section examining apples. She had not noticed me yet. I made sure to stay exactly 101 yards away, just outside the limit of the restraining order, but within the same public space. Legal, defensible. Then I approached, calculating the distance carefully. 90 yards. 80. She looked up and froze. Do not worry, I said quietly, stopping exactly at 75 yards. I am not violating the order, but we need to talk. Her face hardened. We have nothing to say to each other. The judge made it clear. The judge said we cannot contact each other. She did not say we cannot speak if we coincide in the same public place. I held up a thick folder. This is information about your financial situation. I think you should have it. I know our financial situation. Do you know about the $90,000 Daniel owes to online casinos? Do you know about the second mortgage he took out on your house, the one with only his signature? Do you know about the credit cards he opened in your name without telling you? Her face lost all color. I left the folder on a nearby display of oranges, within her reach but without handing it directly to her. No physical contact, no coercion. I am not asking you to do anything. I am not pressuring you, but you are still my daughter, and Rachel and Thomas are still my grandkids. This information is yours. What you do with it is your choice. I walked away before she could respond, heading toward the checkout. I did not look back. At home, I told Emily I had run into Sarah at the store. True, though strategically vague about the circumstances. She asked if Sarah had said anything about reconciliation. I said no, which was also true. That afternoon, my phone vibrated with a text from an unknown number. It is Sarah, using a friend's phone. We need to meet. Not at your house, because of the order. Tomorrow. Downtown coffee shop, 2 p.m. I showed the message to Emily. She wants to meet? She said, hope flooding her voice. Do not get ahead of yourself. She might be coming to scream at me. But I knew she was not. She was coming to ask questions. The next day, I arrived at the downtown cafe at 1:55. Sarah was already there, sitting at a corner table away from other customers. The folder I had left was in front of her, worn from repeated examination. I ordered a coffee, black, and sat opposite her. I remained silent. Let her speak first. Is this real? Her voice was hollow. All of it? Every document is verified. Bank statements, loan records, credit reports, all obtained legally through a forensic accountant. You can verify it yourself. Call the creditors. Check your credit report. The house, the mortgage, my signature is not on it. I know. That is forgery. That is fraud. Yes. She put her head in her hands. When she looked up, her eyes were red. How long have you known? I hired the auditor after you filed the guardianship petition. The report came last week. Why are you telling me this? After everything, I looked her straight in the eye. Because you are still my daughter, and Rachel and Thomas are still my grandkids. Daniel is the problem, not you. But you need to see that clearly. I do not know what to do. Start by knowing the truth. Then protect your children. The rest will follow. She gathered the folder, stood up abruptly. I need time to think. Take all the time you need. She left without another word. I sat there, finishing my coffee, watching through the window as she got into her car. She did not start it immediately, just sat there, staring at the folder on her lap. Finally, she pulled out her phone and made a call. Even from inside the coffee shop, I could see her body language shift, rigid, angry. She was calling Daniel, confronting him. I paid for my coffee and walked to my car. In the rearview mirror, I watched Sarah on the phone, pacing in tight circles by her car, her free hand gesturing sharply. The call ended. She stood very still for a long moment. Then she got in her car and peeled out of the lot, tires screeching. I started the engine and headed home. Phase 1. Separate them emotionally. Accomplished. That night, my phone remained silent. No calls from Sarah. No texts. No updates. I tried to focus on dinner with Emily, but my mind kept going back to that parking lot, seeing Sarah make that furious call to Daniel. Whatever she had told him, it was just the beginning. The call came 12 days later, March 22nd, just after 8 a.m. Sarah's voice was small, broken. Dad? It is me. I need to talk to you. I walked to my office, closed the door. I am listening. You were right. About everything. The gambling, the debts, the forged documents. I verified it all. I did not know. I swear I did not know. The words tumbled out, desperate. But I did not soften. You did not know about the debts, but you knew you left your mother at a service station. You knew she had bruises. You knew what you did. Silence. Then weeping. He told me he was manipulating us, that she ruined the papers on purpose to make us look bad. I believed him because I wanted to believe we were the victims, not the criminals. And now? Now I see what I am, what I did. I do not expect forgiveness. I just need to protect my kids from the disaster I created. I let her cry for another minute. Then I laid out my terms. If you want any path toward eventual reconciliation, and I am not promising anything, you need to take concrete action. First, file for divorce immediately. Second, agree to temporary custody of Rachel and Thomas with us while you stabilize. Third, return the $15,000. Dad, I cannot. CPS is investigating your home. If you do not act now, the decision will be taken out of your hands. The silence stretched. Finally, how much time do I have? 2 weeks for all three things. The money? I will need time to... A payment plan is acceptable, but the divorce papers must be filed within 2 weeks. Non-negotiable. Another long pause. Okay, one more thing. When you file, you need to request an investigation into the notary who certified the forged mortgage. That person is either an accomplice or had their credentials stolen. Either way, it is evidence. I said it casually, almost as an afterthought, but I knew Daniel. Desperate men make desperate decisions, and if Daniel thought the notary could be convinced or coerced to change their testimony, I will include it in the filing. Sarah said. We hung up. I sat at my desk for a long time, thinking about the next moves, contingencies, how Daniel would react when the walls really started closing in. 2 weeks and 1 day later, on April 5th, Sarah filed for divorce. Mark called me that afternoon to tell me. She cited irreconcilable differences, requested full custody with supervised visits for Daniel, and flagged the forged mortgage for investigation. The papers were served to Daniel at his workplace an hour ago. How did he react? The server said he went pale, then red, and then walked out of the building without saying a word. That night, I stood by my kitchen window, watching the street. Emily was upstairs preparing the guest room for Rachel and Thomas, humming softly as she worked. The sound was almost peaceful. My phone vibrated. Text message from an unknown number. You did this. You destroyed my family. This is not over. I saved the message, forwarded it to Mark with a note. Documentation for possible restraining order extension. Then I deleted the unknown number and went up to help Emily make the beds. The next phase was already underway, and this time Daniel would do most of the work himself. That night, my phone remained silent. No calls from Sarah, no texts, no updates. I tried to focus on dinner with Emily, but my mind kept going back to that parking lot. Seeing Sarah make that furious call to Daniel, whatever she had told him, it was just the beginning. The next morning, Mark called. Child Protective Services completed their home visit at Daniel and Sarah's house. The report is not public yet, but my contact says they noted troubling financial instability and evidence of ongoing parental conflict. They will require a follow-up in 30 days. Another pressure point, another crack in the foundation. Days passed. I kept to my normal routine. Grocery shopping, coffee with Emily at our favorite cafe, reviewing old files in my office just to keep my mind sharp. But I was waiting, watching. The call came 12 days after the supermarket encounter, March 22nd, just after 8 a.m. Sarah's voice was small, broken, nothing like the defensive woman in the courtroom. Dad, it is me. I need to talk to you. I walked to my office, closed the door so Emily would not hear. I am listening. You were right about everything. The gambling, the debts, the forged documents. I verified it all myself. I did not know. I swear I did not know. The words tumbled out. Desperate. A part of me wanted to comfort her, but the prosecutor in me stayed cold. You did not know about the debts, but you knew you left your mother at a service station. You knew she had bruises. You knew what you did. Silence, then weeping, raw and ugly. He told me he was manipulating us, that she ruined the papers on purpose to make us look bad. I believed him because I wanted to believe we were the victims, not the criminals. And now I see what I am, what I did. I do not expect forgiveness. I just need to protect my kids from the disaster I created. I let her cry for another minute, let the weight of it settle. Then I laid out my terms. Each one deliberate, non-negotiable. If you want any path toward eventual reconciliation, and I am not promising anything, you need to take concrete action. First, file for divorce immediately. Second, Agree to temporary custody of Rachel and Thomas with us while you stabilize your situation. Third, return the $15,000 you took. Dad, I cannot just... CPS is investigating your home. If you do not act now, the decision will be taken out of your hands completely. The silence stretched. I could hear her breathing, ragged and shaky. How much time do I have? 2 weeks. For the 3 requirements. The money. I will need time to get that kind of... A payment plan is acceptable. First payment within 30 days. But the divorce papers must be filed within 2 weeks. Non-negotiable. Another long pause. I could almost hear her calculating, weighing options, realizing she had none. Okay, one more thing. When you file, you need to request an investigation into the notary who certified the forged mortgage. That person is an accomplice to fraud or had their credentials stolen. Either way, it must be flagged for investigation. I said it casually, almost as an afterthought. But I knew Daniel. If he believed that notary could be convinced or coerced to change their testimony, destroy records, cover tracks, I will include it in the filing, Sarah said quietly. We hung up. I sat at my desk for a long time afterwards, looking at the photo on my shelf. Sarah, at 8 years old, toothless and laughing, holding up a perfect math test. That little girl was gone. The woman who had abandoned her mother in the desert had taken her place. But maybe, eventually, something better could emerge from the rubble. 2 weeks and 1 day later, on April 5th, Sarah filed for divorce in city court. Mark called me that afternoon. It is done. She cited irreconcilable differences, requested full custody with supervised visits for Daniel, and specifically flagged the forged mortgage documents for investigation. The papers were served to Daniel at his workplace an hour ago. How did he react? The server said he went pale, then red, and then walked out of the building without saying a word. Left his briefcase, his lunch, everything. I thanked Mark and hung up. I walked to the kitchen window, looked out at the quiet street. Emily was upstairs preparing the guest room for Rachel and Thomas, humming softly as she worked. The sound was almost peaceful. My phone vibrated. Text message from an unknown number. You did this. You destroyed my family. This is not over. I took a screenshot, forwarded it to Mark with a note. Documentation for possible restraining order extension. Then I blocked the number and went up to help Emily make the twin beds with clean sheets covered in stars and planets. The next phase was already underway, and this time Daniel would do most of the work himself. Daniel showed up at my house 6 days after receiving the divorce papers. It was nearly midnight when headlights swept across our bedroom window. I was already awake. Old prosecutor instinct. I heard the car door slam. Heavy footsteps on the path. The pounding on the front door shook the frame. Michael, I know you are in there. You cannot hide from this. I put on my robe and went downstairs. Emily appeared at the top of the stairs, frightened. Call the police, I told her quietly. Violation of restraining order. Daniel's shouting continued outside. You turned my wife against me. You poisoned her mind. You want to take everything from me. I did not open the door. I just stood in my hallway, phone in hand, waiting. The police arrived in 7 minutes. Through the window, I saw 2 officers approach Daniel, who was still on my porch, face red with rage. They arrested him on the spot. The next morning, Mark called with an update. He spent 48 hours in jail. The judge set bail at $5,000. He posted it this morning using a bondsman. He will violate it again. Probably. They always do. 6 days later, he did. The notary's office was in a small professional building downtown. Linda Peterson had been a notary public for 15 years, meticulous with her records. When I mentioned her name to Sarah, I knew Daniel might try something stupid, and he broke in at 3 in the morning on April 18th. He smashed the back door window, triggered the silent alarm immediately. He was in the office less than 5 minutes before the police arrived, just enough time to search Linda's files, leave fingerprints on her desk and filing cabinets, and accomplish absolutely nothing since her records were digitally backed up and legally protected. Security cameras captured everything. Mark called me the next morning. Your son-in-law is making this incredibly easy for us. Breaking and entering, attempted theft of records, destruction of property, combined with the restraining order violation, he is facing serious charges. Will he make bail again? I doubt it. Judge Salas does not appreciate repeat offenders. Daniel is likely looking at a minimum of 5 to 7 days before a hearing. Over the next week, Daniel's life collapsed like a building with its supports removed. His employer fired him on April 21st. Standard policy for employees with pending felony charges. The foreclosure notice on his house arrived on April 25th. His car was repossessed 2 days later when he missed the third consecutive payment. Sarah moved into a small apartment downtown. She took the kids with her. She had found a job as a paralegal, ironic given the circumstances, and she was making the first payment on what she owed us. On April 30th, I received a call from Linda Peterson, the notary. Her voice was shaky but angry. "Mr. Rivers, this is Linda Peterson. The police told me you might have information about why Daniel Valdez attacked my office. He forged documents and needed your records to disappear. I want to testify against him at any hearing, any trial, what he did to his wife, what he tried to do to my business. I want him held accountable." I took her information, passed it to Mark, another witness, another nail in the coffin. That same afternoon, Daniel's lawyer contacted Mark about a plea deal. The terms were harsh but predictable. Plead guilty to breaking and entering. Drop the attempted theft charge. 6 months probation. 200 hours of community service. Restitution for damages. No jail time, if he fully complied with all terms. He will take it, I told Mark. He has no choice. Probably, his lawyer knows they have video evidence and cannot win at trial. 2 days later, Sarah called. Her voice was exhausted but steady. "Dad, the kids want to say goodbye to Daniel before they move in with you guys this weekend. Can we meet somewhere supervised?" "Where?" "Downtown Park, Sunday at noon," I thought. I thought maybe you should be there as a supervisor so Daniel knows the boundaries are real. I thought about it. Meeting Daniel face to face with my grandkids present at the final moment of his collapse. "I will be there," I said. Sunday morning arrived bright and cold. Emily and I drove to the Central Park just before noon. Sarah was already there with Rachel and Thomas, sitting at a picnic table near the playground. The kids were subdued, sensing the weight of adult problems they could not fully understand. Daniel arrived 10 minutes late, driving a borrowed car. He looked diminished, unshaven, wearing wrinkled clothes, moving like someone who had not slept in days. He stopped when he saw me standing next to Sarah. He clenched his jaw. "You brought him." Sarah's voice was steady. "Dad is here to supervise. Those are the terms." For a moment, I thought Daniel might leave, but then Rachel yelled, "Daddy!" and ran toward him, and any fight left in him vanished. I watched him kneel and hug his daughter, then his son. I watched him try to smile, try to pretend everything was okay. I watched him lie to his children's faces about why they could not come home with him yet. After 15 minutes, Sarah stood up. "It is time to go." Daniel's mask cracked. "Please, just a little longer." We agreed on 15 minutes. He looked at me then, and I saw everything in that look. Hate, defeat, recognition that he had destroyed himself more thoroughly than I ever could have. "This is all because of you," he said quietly. "You orchestrated everything." I looked him straight in the eye. "You left my wife in the desert. Everything that happened after was just the consequence." He had no answer for that. He just turned and walked back to the borrowed car, shoulders slumped, a man carrying the full weight of his choices. Emily took the kids' hands, leading them toward our car. Sarah stayed a moment, watching Daniel drive away. "Thank you," she said softly, "for being here, for all of this. Take care of those kids," I told her. "That is all that matters now." We drove home in silence, Rachel and Thomas chattering in the back seat about their new room, about the stars and planets on their sheets. Innocent voices, unaware of the war that had been waged around them. In my rearview mirror, I watched the park disappear. It was over. Not the forgiveness, not the reconciliation, not the healing. Those would take years, if they ever came. But the revenge part, that was finished. Justice had been done, cold and precise, and sometimes that had to be enough. Daniel's criminal sentencing hearing was scheduled for May 7th. I was not required to attend. I went anyway. The courtroom was the same one where I had prosecuted hundreds of cases over 4 decades. Judge Salas presiding, a woman who had risen through the system the same years I did, Who knew what a thorough prosecution looked like? Daniel walked in, shuffling in county jail scrubs, unable to make bail this time. His lawyer, a public defender since Daniel could no longer afford a private one, carried a thin file. There was not much defense to mount. I sat in the back gallery, wearing a suit, old habits. The judge reviewed the case file, her expression neutral but focused. Daniel's lawyer presented his arguments. Isolated incidents, extreme stress from a failing marriage, no prior criminal record, full cooperation with authorities. Judge Salas listened. Then she spoke. Mr. Valdez, I have reviewed your case thoroughly. Your attorney argues this was a single lapse in judgment, but the record shows a pattern. You abandoned an elderly woman in dangerous conditions. You violated a restraining order, and you broke into a legal office to steal confidential documents. The public defender tried again. Your Honor, my client was under extreme stress from financial difficulties. Many people face stress and financial difficulties. They do not commit crimes. Mr. Valdez made choices, consistently poor choices that endangered others and violated the law. Daniel spoke for the first time, his voice hollow. I was trying to protect my family's interests. I was desperate. Desperation excuses no criminality. I sentence you to 6 months of supervised probation, 200 hours of community service, full restitution for damages, and a permanent restraining order prohibiting any contact with the Rivers family. This means no contact of any kind. Not through intermediaries, not through social media, not through your children. Any violation will result in immediate incarceration. Do you understand? Yes, Your Honor. Daniel looked at me once as the bailiff led him out. I held his gaze steadily. He looked away first. A week later, Sarah called. The divorce is final, May 15th. I am legally free of him. Not happy, just free. That same week, I made a phone call from my locked office. Daniel's employment information, obtained through the divorce proceedings, a public record. It was on my desk. Susan Chen speaking. How can I help you? Mrs. Chen, my name is Michael Rivers. I am a retired city prosecutor. I am calling regarding one of your employees, Daniel Valdez, in your marketing department. Her voice became cautious. I cannot discuss employee matters with outside parties. I understand completely. I am not asking for information. I am providing it. Mr. Valdez was recently convicted of breaking and entering and has multiple restraining order violations on his record. He also has a documented gambling addiction with over $90,000 in casino debt. I thought your company should be aware, especially if he has access to financial systems or client accounts. Pause. Can you provide case numbers or documentation? It is all public record. I gave her the case numbers, the dates, the court locations. I appreciate you letting us know. Just ensuring appropriate parties have relevant information. What you do with it is your decision. 3 days later, Mark called. Daniel Valdez was fired from Apex Marketing yesterday. Official reason: violation of company ethics policy. Understood. Thank you. I walked into the living room where Emily was reading. It is done. She looked up, understood immediately, and nodded. No celebration, just acknowledgement. The next week, I met with our estate attorney. Emily came with me, carrying decades of financial documents. I want to restructure our will and create a trust for Rachel and Thomas. The lawyer took notes as I explained. The main assets: the house valued at $680,000, savings of $320,000, would go directly to the grandkids through a trust activating when they turn 25. Sarah would receive $50,000. Not much for your daughter, the lawyer observed. Enough to show forgiveness is possible, not enough to reward what she did. The trust included strict provisions, protected from any future spouse Sarah might have, not accessible early for any reason. Required the kids maintain good academic standing and a clean criminal record. This is ironclad, the lawyer confirmed. No one can access or modify it without a court order proving you were incompetent when you created it. We signed the documents in early June. The notary certified, stamped, and filed the originals in the lawyer's safe. Later that month, Mark provided a final update. Daniel moved back to another state, living with his mother in the capital, working part-time at a store, barely making minimum payments on court-ordered restitution. I absorbed this information. Criminal record, check. Divorced with minimal visits, check. House foreclosed, check. Car repossessed, check. Employment terminated, check. Credit destroyed, check. $90,000 in unpayable debt, check. The man who had tried to rob us, who had abandoned Emily in the desert, that man had been systematically dismantled. I felt no guilt, only the cold satisfaction of justice served. That night I sat on our back porch, watching Rachel and Thomas play in the yard. Emily joined me, settling into the chair beside me. "Is it really over?" she said quietly. "Yes. Do you think Daniel will try anything else?" "No. He has nothing left to fight with." She was silent for a moment. "What you did, coordinating all this, some people might call it revenge. Some people would be right. And you are okay with that?" I thought about the question. 40 years prosecuting criminals, building cases, believing in consequences, finding my wife bruised and abandoned at a desert gas station, seeing Daniel manipulate our daughter into complicity. I stopped a criminal using legal means. I would do it again. Emily reached out and took my hand. Her grip was strong, firm. The tremor she had for weeks after the abandonment was gone. "Good," she said, "because he deserved everything that happened to him." We sat together as the sun set, watching our grandkids play. And for the first time in months, the weight I had been carrying lifted. Justice had not just been served, it was complete. Summer arrived with a softness that felt earned. Rachel and Thomas adapted to living with us with the resilience of children. Their rooms full of drawings, homework, the comfortable chaos of young lives. Emily enrolled them in summer programs at the local community center. I taught Thomas to ride a bike in our driveway, running alongside him until the moment he found his balance and pedaled alone, laughing. Emily started therapy twice a week. A kind woman named Dr. Patricia Leon, who specialized in trauma recovery. At first, Emily resisted. "I am fine. I do not need to talk to anyone." But I insisted. The abandonment, the bruises, our daughter's betrayal, those things left marks deeper than skin. After 3 weeks, Emily came home from a session and told me, "Patricia asked me today what I wanted from the future." I realized I had been so focused on surviving I had forgotten to think about living, and that I want to be a grandmother, feel safe in my own life again. Forgive Sarah eventually, when she has earned it. Not today. Not today. But maybe someday. Sarah called every night to talk to her kids, brief conversations filled with, "How was school? And did you brush your teeth? And I love you." She sent the first payment of what she owed us, $500, almost half her paycheck from her paralegal job. The second Saturday in June, she asked if she could visit, just for an hour. "I want to see them. I want to see you both." I looked at Emily. She nodded slowly. Saturday afternoon, 2 o'clock, 1 hour. Sarah arrived exactly on time, carrying a bag of art supplies for the kids. She had lost weight, looked tired but steady. She hugged Rachel and Thomas carefully, as if she was afraid they might break or disappear. "Mommy," Thomas asked, "when are we coming home?" Sarah's face crumbled for a moment. Then she smiled. "Grandma and Grandpa's house is your home right now, honey. But we will have special visits, okay? Like today." After the kids went out to play, Sarah turned to us. "I am taking night classes at the community college. Business administration. I want to support myself properly. Give them stability. I know I cannot undo what I did, but I am trying to become someone who deserves them back eventually." I did not soften immediately. Words are easy. Actions take time. I know. I am prepared to take that time. Those Saturday visits became routine. Every week, same time, Sarah arrived with some small gift or activity. Never asked to take the kids anywhere alone. Never pushed boundaries. Just showed up consistently, proving through repetition that she could be trusted. Daniel exercised his monthly supervised visitation rights exactly once, in June, at a facility in the neighboring city with a court-appointed supervisor present. According to the report Sarah received, he had sat stiffly across from Rachel and Thomas for 30 minutes, asked surface-level questions about school, and left early claiming he had work. He never scheduled another visit. August brought our 41st wedding anniversary. I had not planned anything elaborate. The last few months had been exhausting enough. but Emily wanted to celebrate. "We survived," she said simply. "That deserves recognition." We invited Sarah to dinner. She arrived early to help cook, moving around our kitchen like she remembered from childhood, instinctively knowing where everything lived. The evening was almost normal. Rachel showed us her report card. All A's and B's. Thomas demonstrated his new ability to snap his fingers. We ate lasagna and garlic bread, and the lemon cake Sarah had baked. After dinner, after the kids were playing in the living room and Sarah was clearing dishes, Emily and I stepped out onto the front porch. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink. 41 years, Emily said. Despite everything, I repeated. Do you think Sarah will be okay? Really okay? I thought about the question, about my daughter who had made terrible choices, paid terrible prices, and was slowly rebuilding herself piece by piece. I think she has a chance. If she keeps trying, if she keeps doing the work. And us? Are we okay? I looked at my wife. 62 years old, bruises long gone, strength back. The woman I had driven 300 miles through the night to rescue. The woman who had sat beside me through investigations, court hearings, strategic planning. The woman who had chosen to heal instead of break. We are more than okay, I said. Inside, Sarah called. Dinner is ready. Wait, we had just eaten. I realized she meant dessert, old habit, calling it wrong. Rachel and Thomas ran toward the house, laughing at something only they understood. Emily stood up, pulled my hand. Come on, let's eat with our family. I stood, but paused at the porch railing, looking out at the neighborhood. 41 years in this house. 40 years as a prosecutor before that. I had spent my whole life seeking justice. In courtrooms, through evidence, by legal means. What happened with Daniel was just one more case, except it was not. It was personal, and personal cases required complete solutions. Daniel was gone. Not dead, not in prison, just removed, living a diminished life in another state. No threat to anyone. Sarah was here, rebuilding, earning forgiveness slowly. Emily was healing. The kids were safe. Michael called Emily from the doorway. I turned, saw my wife backlit by the warm kitchen light, heard my grandkids' voices. That is what justice looks like, I thought. Not courtrooms or sentences. This, family, safety, healing. I went inside and Emily closed the door behind us. Through the window, the porch swing rocked gently in the evening breeze. Empty now, but waiting. Tomorrow would come with its own challenges, but tonight was simply a family dinner. Laughter around a table. Ordinary moments that once seemed lost forever. Emily brought the anniversary cake. 41 candles. Actually just 4 in a 1. We sang, off-key and happy. I made a wish, not for revenge or justice. Those were complete. I wished for continued healing, for my grandkids' future, for my wife's peace. I blew out the candles. Everyone clapped. And for the first time since that midnight call from a gas station 8 months ago, I felt something I had almost forgotten. Satisfaction. The revenge was over. The healing had just begun, and sometimes that balance was exactly what justice required. If you liked this story, please like this video. Subscribe to the channel Williams Revenge Stories, and share your thoughts on this story in the comments. To listen to the next story, click the box on the left. Thanks for watching.